And now, Fastened Like Nails with Dr. Mark Hamby.
Welcome to Fastened Like Nails. I'm Mark Hamby, and I'm really excited today to share some amazing truths that I've experienced over the last couple of days, and I have in the studio with me my co-host, Molly Mayo. Molly?
Hello, thank you.
Great having you here, Molly. God's really been so good to us lately, hasn't he? Mm-hmm. I mean, he always is, but we get to see it in a little bit more clearer picture than we're in the battle here, it seems like all the time, and once in a while we get to kind of stand back a little bit, and that especially happens when we have a guest in the middle of the studio today. I've got Dr. Lew Sterrett. Welcome.
Glad to be here.
Okay, Lew, I'm going to call you Lew. We've been friends for years, and I appreciate you. I feel like if there was ever a man I felt that close with, and maybe we don't want to be too close because then we get to know each other too well, but
we already know each other too much.
But I feel like you're a genuine brother.
Amen.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, it's cool. Not just in interest and likes, but also in experiences and heartaches and hopes and dreams.
Yeah, we work really well together, though. We really do. I really appreciate you. So you were up in the park yesterday, the Grand Canyon of the East, even though there was one in Pennsylvania, the one in Western New York where Lamplighter headquarters is. If you've never been here, it is spectacular. It looks like a miniature Grand Canyon.
It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. And you asked us if we found a place in the park, we could find a place in the park where you could do some teaching with our students. This week you're teaching what?
On design, discovery, and destiny.
Okay, so this is dealing with nature, so we're going to go outside. We're going to look at trees and grass and flowers and all kinds of dead things, growing things, moving things, everything that's out there. We're looking at those three principles.
Yes, we first gave them a grid to look through, and that is God has certain design principles that he uses, and the same creator who created us created his workshop for us to study from. So you can imagine the evening walks were not just discovering and laughing about the things they learned about their animals of creation, but also about the Creator, and it would have turned to a worship conversation.
So design, discovery, destiny. When I first heard those three words, I thought, ding, ding, that's a new book title for me. So hopefully you haven't copyrighted it yet. But when I heard you say that, I was very intrigued. All around us is, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament, shows his hand at work, and God speaking to us. There's nothing greater, other than his word, than the revelation of God through his creation.
Yes,
right?
And his fingerprints are all over it.
Everywhere. Okay, so as we were there, we were approaching this gorgeous waterfall. It's one of my favorites in the park. And again, those of you who have never been to Letchworth State Park here in Western New York State, a mile away from the Lamplighter headquarters, it is the number one state park in the country, and it's like a miniature Grand Canyon. So it's one of the reasons I love being in this area. This park just attracts me. And so we're up there, and we're walking close to this gorgeous waterfall. It's got 3 levels to it, and then you ask this question out of nowhere. You ask this question, what's the difference between a waterfall and a swamp? And I'm like, other than the obvious, swamp is kind of like just sits there stagnant, but I don't know. So tell me, what's the difference?
Well, any life-giving stream always has a source that it receives water from and a source that it gives to. It flows in and out. Receiving and giving are of equal importance. But one of the great things about it is that it is framed and defined by boundaries. A swamp has no boundaries. It receives from no one. It gives to no one, and it's dead.
Whoa, stagnant, dead.
Yes.
So the waterfall is always receiving from an upper source.
Yes.
Wow, what a great parallel.
Simple but powerful, isn't it?
Some of the the simplest illustrations are the most powerful, I think.
Well, they are, because we realize they've been staring us in the face all along, and we've not caught the third dimension to it.
It reminds me of Psalm 145. It says that one generation shall praise thy works to another and shall declare thy mighty acts, and I don't think that's being done a lot today. You were in the library the other day, and I was talking about this book that Charlie Tremendous Jones had written, that Life is Tremendous. And then you looked at me and you said something about enthusiasm that I'd never heard before. Can you share that?
Sure. I said the number one most marketable product in the world is enthusiasm. It matters little what you're selling, But if you are excited about it, somebody else is interested in it. And then I asked you, what does it mean? And you didn't have the definition for that word like you do all the other words. But I said it means of God. And Christians should be the most enthusiastic, not hyper, not salesman, but just genuinely excited about life and about what it has to offer.
Okay, so Molly, Lew, what causes someone to be genuinely enthusiastic about life, about something about their life? So Molly, let's ask you first.
Yeah.
What are the things in your life that you're most enthusiastic about?
Well, there are a lot of different things. I love being here at Lamplighter, the people, and my family back home, and
What do you love to share, though, that you share enthusiastically before or after you've had coffee?
well, the coffee. But food is pretty amazing. I don't know. God gives us so many really amazing things, which we talk about here. Lamplighter talks about Christian hedonism, which is kind of like enjoying the things that God has in the world. So I love sharing about everything. I can tend to be pretty excited about a lot of different things.
There's one thing that stands out for me as I observe you here at Lamplighter. The one thing that stands out to me more than anything is when God gives you something in His Word.
Oh yeah, no, that's the best. And I think what you're talking about too about genuine enthusiasm and stuff is like we're doing this Jacob play, and the people who aren't excited about it are the ones who don't have any personal investment in it, who haven't like interacted with the material or made it their own. And I think with like Lamplighter too, like people could care less about Lamplighter, but if they've read a book and it changed them personally and they see it for themselves, I think that will just cause a natural enthusiasm about anything in general. So with, something in God's Word, like you read a verse and you're like, okay, cool, that's beautiful. But if you're struggling with something and you read a verse and it's like, whoa, that's exactly what I needed to hear, and it just hits you in a different way, like the powerful illustration of the waterfall, then it's like, oh yeah, that's crazy, and that can be very...
And you want to share it with other people as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Lew, okay, Molly just hit on something I think really big. There's a personal investment. It changed them in some way. So how do people cultivate the Spirit of God, this enthusiastic, they love what they do what they love? What is it that is going to generate that in their lives?
I think in all fairness, in all honesty, there's a downside of enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is probably the greatest expression of true faith that there is. But there has to be an emptiness before there can be a fullness. We all love the fullness. We all love giving something that helps somebody else. But in the process, there's an emptiness. Like you promise to speak, and then you think, oh, what did I do that for? I have nothing to say. I had this idea to write a play, and now I don't have a clue what I'm doing, and I think I'm sorry I ever mentioned it. I offered to train a horse, think, what do I know about any of that? So there's this terrible emptiness that we don't like.
Wait, you promised to train this horse, but you find out this horse is different than any
Oh
horse you've ever
yeah,
done before.
it's going to be a killer. I think, what kind of thing was I volunteering for? And it's like God teases you into the commitment, and you make the commitment. And that's why our yay must be yay and our nay be nay, because it's actually our yay that forms the development and the discovery in our life. It's not that we're such good people and such full people. We're empty people. But as we give, and this is the whole process of nature, as we tend His flock, we discover things about Him. We discover things about ourselves, and we discover where fulfillment comes from. And so what keeps us in this ministry, though we are pained and worried and frustrated, just like everybody else, even though we shouldn't say that on air, but the truth of it is it's the fulfillment, it's the fruit, it's the culmination of the pregnancy. It gives birth, it gives life to another. But like normal pregnancies, there's difficulties with them, and there's travail with them, and it changes your whole life. And the flesh doesn't like that. Okay. So we love enthusiasm, which is the result of well investment.
Okay, investing in something that you had to go through some pain to get there. Molly, I got to say this even publicly. So for those of you that are trying to understand what we just talked about regarding this play that we've invested in, so I wrote a play on the Jacob narrative, Jacob and Esau, and the blessing and Jacob looking for grace. Spent 2 days nonstop writing, and of course, at the end of anything that I write, I think it's the best thing that's ever been written in the world. Okay, I'm like, this is flawless. This
and then
is of
there's
God.
hyper enthusiasm.
Oh, yeah. I'll go to my wife's my editor, and I'll say, Debbie, do not change a word. This is perfection personified, you know? And then she'll send it back to me, and it's not like anything that I wrote.
There's
you know?
3 words left of the original.
Really. And I'll say, or sometimes if Molly edits it or Debbie edits it, I'll read it. I'm going like, you guys didn't change anything. And they'll go like, we'll compare it, you know? It's nothing like you wrote. Okay, so I wrote this thing, and then we did auditions, and everyone that did an audition was like, they just walked out like depressed. And then I'm getting depressed as I'm watching people's reaction. And then Sarah's like, and then Molly's like, and I'm like, oh no, you know? And so like we went through 2 days of, this isn't going to happen. But God was leading us to do it. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe I misunderstood God's direction. And I kind of like, okay, hey, we don't have to do it. And all of a sudden Molly got this enthusiasm. And she's like, let's go for it. Let's make this happen. We'll give it our very best in the end. If it doesn't happen, that's fine. But we will give it everything we got. If we've got to stay up to 1, 2 o'clock in the morning for the next several nights, let's do it. Let's work because that's how we work at the Guild.
But see, that's a principle of design. He tears down before he builds up.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So he rips and tears this landscape, the hardscape, and you're like, why did we start? Because it's a lot worse than it was before. We're worse off.
That's
and
good.
then he begins to put it back in layers.
And how many of us quit before we actually do the hard stuff? You're going to say something.
No, I was just saying that that thing, like going for the play, didn't just happen. It was actually my car ride back from Letchworth with Rainey, because I hit rock bottom with that play. I was like, this is just going to take so much work, and we've got like a month left. I'm just tired. I'm weary. I don't want to do this. And then Rainey, she was just talking, and I was about to fall asleep. And then I was like, wait a minute, she's talking, and she's pretty quiet, but, sometimes, she'll share things that are really profound. Like, she's awesome. But so she's like, yeah, the students were really discouraged. She's like, I was, talking with them last night, and they're all just like not enthusiastic about this play. And I remembered that yesterday I had a conversation. I had just finished recording the podcast, and I looked over at one of the students. I was like, I don't know about this play, man. And that's like all I said. But then I think that's like totally what they saw. And they're like, okay, so are the people who are like making this thing happen, they're discouraged and they don't want to do it. And then it just like blew up. And I was like, whoa, my little comment, impacts people. And so then I'm sitting there, and she was like, remember back when we were in a hole with Christmas sales, and we were trying to put on the dinner theater play, and we all knew we'd have to stay up super late, and everyone just did it. And they rallied together, and everyone had the joy and the passion and the enthusiasm.
It was
we're all
amazing.
like singing Christmas carols, and we were sending out prayer letters where we're like, hey, thank you so much for praying for us. This is what God's doing. And that's when we came together as a team and saw something really beautiful happen. It was because of that time of really hard work and fellowship too that happened. And I was like, what am I doing? I was like, I've been bottoming out here, and like, if we're gonna make this thing happen, then like we've got to set the example and do something.
Obstacles are always opportunities for us to not just grow in Christ, but to actually partner. I love 2 Peter chapter 1. His divine power has given us everything we need for life and godliness, according to a full intimate knowledge of Him who has called us to His own glory and excellence, by which He's also granted unto us great and magnificent promises. It's amazing. God's given us all these promises, and I like to be literal, all 8,767 promises, by which He's also granted us great and magnificent promises. Peter doesn't say these promises. He says great and magnificent. Now, if I'm going to speak like that, people are going to say, Mark, why do you always got to use all these superlatives, all these, huge adjectives to describe what God's about to do? Why can't you just speak without? But Peter says great and magnificent promises. That's how grand they are. God's granted us that I'll be with you always. I'll never leave you or forsake you. I'm a sun and shield. I'll give grace and glory. No good thing will I withhold from them who walk uprightly. 1 John chapter 2, he says this. He says, and this is the confidence that I give you, that you can ask anything in my name, and it shall be given to you.
And here's the scary part about all that. Opportunities never go away. They simply go to someone else.
Oof. Okay, that's goosebump
That's
material.
Esther's story, isn't it?
Oh,
if
yeah.
not through you, someone else.
Yeah, wow, powerful. Okay, let's bring this back now. Okay, so we are going to do this Jacob narrative play. And
That has everything to do with pruning at the front.
The deep hardscape has to take place in our lives. There's got to be death before there's life.
Yes.
You know, except a grain of wheat fall into the ground and dies, it abides alone. But if it dies, it brings forth much fruit. Okay. So here we are in the park. You share this illustration about the swamp and the waterfall. Amazing illustration. I could have gone home at that moment, but then you bring us into the woods and you're looking up at the trees and you ask the question about which limbs are most dead and why are they most dead and which limbs are most alive. Share what you shared there.
Well, when you look at a tree, this is a generalization, but there are vertical limbs which come out and they kind of Y against the trunk, and then there are lateral limbs that shoot straight out to the sides. And when we watch these trees, we realize that most of the decaying, weakened, or broken off branches were the lateral limbs.
The horizontal ones. Yep.
Right. And of course, we know all trees need to draw to the light. They need to draw vertical. But as Jesus was told that he grew in wisdom and in stature and in favor with God and men, our ability to grow in favor with men is not by simply socialization, total lateral connections, because they become weakest if they're only social connections. And brother, we're meant to love the brotherhood, but our love for the brotherhood is strongest when it grows toward God, toward our brethren.
Whoa.
That's why we're perfected in unity.
Okay, so here are these trees. I mean, the majority of the trees that had the lateral horizontal limbs, they were the ones that were the weakest, and they were the ones that most of them were dying on.
And when you're humanly trimming trees, you trim off the weaker, potentially less productive or strong limbs.
Okay, so those of us that have a greater need for more social, so that these horizontal limbs are reaching out in the undergrowth, they're not reaching up into the sky, they're not reaching up into the light, they're more, you relate that to more of a socialization. How do you relate that socially?
Well, God wants us to grow laterally. He wants us to serve our mankind, but we're only as good as we are dependent upon Him. So, as they say, no, so heavenly minded, no earthly good. He doesn't want us just to be vertical. He wants us to branch out and influence and have the breadth of influence, but not just lateral. So it's that delicate balance once again.
Maple trees, sugar maple trees, really represent really well. Their form goes both lateral and vertical.
Yes, it does.
They go out and then they go up. It's a beautiful, and those beautiful trees. You took a 3-foot diameter trunk on that beautiful sugar maple, and it stands out there. Those that are out there kind of by themselves, it's just, they're like 40 feet wide and
they
gorgeous.
Withstand the wind gust and the heavy burdens of snow better than any other, as do we stand the trials and the burdens that normally tear off weak limbs.
Interesting. Yeah, sometimes the ones in my forest, the oaks are the ones that usually fall. The maples never fall over in a huge windstorm. Yeah, because the oaks go more straight up. They don't go as far out laterally, but the maples do. Isn't that interesting? Okay, so from there, you gave us that lesson. And then from there, you gave us some simple lessons. But the one that hit me the most was some of the dead logs on the ground in the forest. And share what
Well, one of the students brought a picture because we told him to go and get pictures that were teachable moments. And they brought a great picture of forest debris, logs and branches that had piled up and accumulated with waterfall. But there were also tires and plastic mixed in among it.
Interesting.
And I said that when God designs, even in death, He is giving life. Actually, that Paul says, death works in me, but life in you. And we see even the regeneration through decay that is actually nurturing. Paul even said he counted these things but dung, and he was referring to criticism and enemies. And dung actually is a form of fertilizer. So we can see whatever God uses to replenish and nurture our spirit. But when man makes things, he makes things from the motivation of greed. And it does not replenish in death. It only accumulates in debris.
Why those stinking tires are
Stinking
still
tires will never go away, but God's work will recycle. So we are still benefiting from the life of Enoch, as the Scripture tells us. We're benefiting from Moses. Though they're long dead, they're still feeding us through
the
their
Scripture
lives.
says, yet they liveth.
They liveth, and that's how they live. And so our goal isn't just to live this life. Our goal is to live generationally so that the residual of our life is something that other people can pick up and live on.
I love this. If we're going to live generationally, we need to live generously.
That's a good point. Very good point.
Lew, this has been amazing. Okay, let's do this again. Let's stop here today. These are some amazing life-changing points, all walking in the woods. We got to see these things. Thank you so much for bringing these truths to light.
If you think this is important, Wait till you hear the 3 imperatives he gives to us how we should respond to his creation.
Okay, that'll be part 2. I'm excited. These are life-changing truths. Thank you for listening to another Fasten Like Nails. I'm Mark Hamby. With me in the studio, Molly Mayo, Dr. Lew Sterrett. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks.
Thank
and we'll look
you.
forward to doing this again as we are passionate about inspiring or creating a renaissance of creative excellence that inspires one to know God intimately, proclaim Him passionately, and enjoy Him infinitely. God bless.
You've been listening to Fastened Like Nails, a presentation of Lamplighter Ministries. Our mission is to make ready a people prepared for the Lord by building Christ-like character, one story at a time. To learn more about our family collection of rare books, dramatic audios, or guild programs, visit lamplighter.net. To hear more podcasts, search for Fastened Like Nails wherever you listen to podcasts. If you have a question you would like to submit for the Lamplighter team, visit fastenedlikenails.net and fill out the form. That's fastenedlikenails.net.
What if you could learn from the creative minds and talents behind Lamplighter Theater?
I've never seen anything like it.
This summer, Lamplighter presents the Lamplighter Guild. A week of mentoring and apprenticeship in the dramatic arts. Learn scriptwriting, music composition, sound design, directing, and voice acting from world-class professionals. Registration for the Lamplighter Guild is limited, so sign up today at lamplighter.net. Lamplighter.net.